Well, hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Renee, and we're working again. I am doing my best to stock my pantry with 1-jar meals. Easy meals that you can just take off the shelf, heat up, and voila, dinner's done. So I have done a couple of them so far, and today I'm going to show you how I do my chicken a la king in a jar. Now, before you even say anything, chicken a la king contains cream. Well, we're not going to can it with the cream. We're just going to make like the base, and then when you take it off the shelf and you heat it, that's when you add your cream to it and thicken it up, and it turns out beautiful. But please, please do not can anything with cream or dairy products in it, because it is not recommended. With that being said, let's get busy and I'll show you how I do this. Okay friends, so in my pot here, I'm sorry, I'm partially cut off because of my camera. Anyway, you only need to focus on this. In my pot here, I have got like 7 nice size breasts, chicken breasts, and they're not cooked. We are going to poach this. We don't want it cooked all the way through because it's going to go through 90 minutes of processing time. So it doesn't, you don't want it cooked all the way through. But anyway, I've got that, and I've got it covered about, a good inch to 1.5 inches with water. So we're going to put our goodies in here because we want this to be as flavorful as we can get it. So I'm putting in an onion, and I'm putting the entire onion in, skins and all. Okay? Now, from my garden, you'll see this. These are beautiful. I've got fresh sage. I've got 4 beautiful leaves of fresh sage. Those are going in there. I've got a sprig of rosemary. I love rosemary. That's going in there. And I've got a sprig of fresh thyme. And all that's from my garden. And it's just wonderful. Okay? So here I'm going to put 2 cloves of garlic in with that. And I've got about just a little handful of peppercorns. That's all going to go in there with that as well. Now this, friends, is going to go on my stove. I'm going to bring this to a boil. You shut it off and you let it sit for about 25 to 30 minutes. And then it's poached. So when this is done, I'll bring it back and then we can get busy with the rest of it. Okay friends, we are back. My chicken is all poached and cut up into bite-sized pieces. I've got all my vegetables here. I got my onions, my peppers, I got red and green peppers, and I've got my mushrooms. I have strained my broth, and I did add a little bit of my, it's like a chicken soup base, and I added some of that to it. It's just delicious, but it just needed a little more chicken to it. Anyway, my jars are all ready. Everything's cleaned, everything's sanitized. So let's get busy and put this together because this is the easiest part. So with that, we're going to do about a good handful in each of these jars because I've got to divvy this up, and I just didn't want to pull out my scale. So I'm just going to make a mess here and I'm going to put a couple handfuls to start out with in each jar. Okay? And my phone's ringing. My phone always rings when I get in the middle of doing something. And I know it's my husband. I'll be right back. Okay. Let's see, I put 2 in that. This is going to be just delicious, and to be able to pull it off your shelf and make a quick meal, it's wonderful. Now, my husband won't eat any of this. We all already know that. He doesn't like mushrooms, and onions just don't agree with him. And these are the sweet onions, so I already know he's not going to eat that. So this is for myself, and I'm going to give a few of these jars to my daughter for her pantry. Okay? We got a little bit left over here. We're going to divvy these up. When you do this, if you add other veggies to it, whatever you might add to it, just make sure, if you want to stay within the USDA guidelines to this, you want to just make sure that you keep half and half. Half of your jar is solids and the other half is liquid. And you should do really good with it. All right, I'm going to put about a half a cup of onions in each one of these. There we go. Give this one a little more. Don't want to waste any. Okay, that's set. And then we're going to do, I'm going to divvy all these mushrooms between them because, man, we like mushrooms and it's all about the meat and the mushrooms. And you might have to get in there and push it down. You know what? I'm not even doing that. I'm not fighting that thing. I hate that thing. It's okay for liquid. Like this. All right. I love mushrooms and my husband hates them. He will not eat them. And ever since he was a young man, somebody told him they grew under cow poop, so he won't eat them. It's like, he's like, that's just disgusting. I can't eat nothing like that. I said, they're not. They don't grow under cow poop, buddy. I'm sorry. But anyway, he won't eat it, and I don't force it. But I do. I love them, and so does my daughter and the rest of the family. So we are going to just load this up with mushrooms. And it really doesn't make any sense for me to try and make some for him without mushrooms because, like I said, it's all about the meat and the mushrooms. And it just wouldn't be good. Okay, now I can use my funnel. So we're going to put some, and push that down a little bit. Want everything in there. These are red and green peppers. And this one can just go right in there just like that. I guess maybe I don't need that funnel. These are so easy to put together. And I'm going to show you my next time I do a video, I'm going to do beef stroganoff. And if you're wondering, the Ball Blue Book, All New Ball Blue Book, has all kinds of recipes. It has a section in there for easy one-jar meals. Perfect for canning. So this is set. We got those filled with what we need to put in them. And next up, definitely going to need our, next up is our broth. I'm going to give that a quick stir. I'm going to use my little that a good stir. Hopefully we have enough. If we don't have enough, very simple, I'll just make more out of my instant broth. Or I can open up a couple of my jars of broth. Alright, so here we go. We're going to see how far this takes us. And I hope it does because this is wonderful stuff. And you want a 1-inch headspace. My wide mouth jars, the jar itself is wider than the funnel. So it's easy to put it. Doesn't that look beautiful in the jars? I love the red and green peppers. Some people use pimentos. I like the red and green peppers. Alright, we got that one. There. It looks like we're going to have a plenty. And I just may, if I'm lucky, I'll have some left over to can up by itself for just broth. Because I wouldn't waste this for anything. This is gorgeous. Now I'm not going to add any salt to these, but I am going to put about a half a teaspoon of pepper in each one when I'm all done. But these really wouldn't even, you wouldn't even have to do that. Just add your salt and pepper after you heat it up and thicken it up and make your sauce for it. Ooh, these are going to be good. And we definitely are within the USDA guidelines because it is half and half. You clearly see that. My grandbabies are going to love this. And make sure it's a 1-inch headspace. And headspace is very important, friends. If you don't have the right headspace, it will cause siphoning as well. I don't need that. Okay. All right, now we are going to take the air out of here. The air bubbles. Remove your air bubbles. Don't skip this step. Whatever you do, air bubbles are not your friend in canning. Okay? They harbor bacteria. They can cause a faulty seal. They're just not your friend. You want them out of there. Look at all that, how far it's reduced from removing the air bubbles. I'll be able to add just a little more broth, and it looks like I'm going to have just enough broth. There's not going to be any left over to can, and that's fine. That's how I like to do it. All right. So we're going to fill these to 1-inch headspace. And we're going to be set. All right. So now, let me put this back over here, out of my way. Aren't those just beautiful in the jars? All right, so now we've got our jars full. And I just want to add some pepper. Now I'm not going to add any salt because the broth, the soup base that I added to it is well, there's a lot of sodium in it, so it's salty. And when you can, do not add regular table salt. Use your canning and pickling salt. It's called that for a reason. I know a lot of people want to just put table salt in there, and that's not recommended. Canning salt is the best. That's what it's made for. All right, so I've got my pepper in there. Beautiful. Now we are going to wipe the rims on our jars. We're just going to clean them off. And I do got vinegar on a piece of paper towel. Okay? We're just going to carefully clean those off. Make sure there's nothing on that rim that can hinder your seal. Beautiful. Okay. The remainder of your vinegar, just pour it right into your canner. It's beautiful in there. It keeps your jars from clouding, and I'm telling you all the time, it cleans them beautifully. Center your lids on your jars, not like that, like this. And make sure you put them on finger tight. No tighter than finger tight. People want to crank these down, but you know what happens when you crank them down? Have any of you ever had a jar that buckled? The lid buckled. Buckles right up on you. 90% of the time, that is because the lids are too tight. Gas has to escape there. Steam and gases and everything escapes through there. And if it's cranked on there tight, it's not going to have anywhere to go, and that steam is going to force it right out, and it's just going to buckle that lid, and out it's going to come. So you just want it finger tight, okay? And that's what we got. Are those not beautiful? Look at that. All right, these are going in the canner. The canner's going to go back on high. I'm going to move my canner before I even fill it. I like it on this burner, okay? And my tea. Okay, so now my water's not screaming hot, my jars are not screaming hot. They're both warm. You don't want to put cold jars in hot water or vice versa. You'll get thermal shock and your jars will break. They'll usually crack right along the bottom. Alright, so that's all in there. Move that over. I'm going to get my lid. Okay, and you know the routine. This has got to spew, this vent, maybe you can't see that. Okay, now you can. This vent has to spew steam for 10 minutes. So when this starts to boil and starts to spew that steam out of this vent right here, you just time it for 10 minutes. That expels all the oxygen from the air. Then with that, after your 10 minutes, you put your jiggler on. But you don't start timing it until the jiggler starts to jiggle. And then this, because it's quartz and it contains meat, must process for 90 minutes. And when that's all done, I'll bring you back and show you just how beautiful this turns out. Okay, friends, this is all done. And I let it, it's still, you can see I'm still touching it. It's still quite warm, but I let it cool down on its own. But still, open it away from me, because even look at that steam. Even though I can touch the outside somewhat, it's still screaming hot on the inside. We need to let this sit just like this for about 5 minutes. We don't want to rip the top off this and jerk these out right now because they will siphon, and it's not a good thing. So I will be back in about 5 minutes or so, and we'll let this settle. Okay, friends, this has sat for about 5 minutes or so. Now I can pull it out. Beautiful. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. And you can clearly see that this does meet their requirements. It's half liquid and half solids. Even though some of it's stuck to the top, that'll come down as it cools. And then when it is completely cool, I can give it a little rattle and it'll all mix in. but it's half solids and half liquids. And that's the safest way to can this. These are gorgeous. What a beautiful addition these are going to be to the pantry. It looks as though I may have had a little bit of siphoning because I got a little bit of broth floating. But otherwise, they're wonderful. They all look to have the right amount of headspace, so it didn't siphon much. And I don't know if I told you, but if you ever pulled a jar out of your canner and the lid has buckled, usually that is a sign, at least 90% of the time, that is a sign that you have tightened that too much. Because you tighten it down too much, then the steam and the gases that this releases get stuck between the headspace and the lid, and when it's cranked down so tight that it can't escape, it forces it out, and that's what buckles your lid. So just in case you didn't know that, a little tidbit of information. But there you have it, friends. Absolutely beautiful, nice addition to the pantry, and it was so easy to put together. So there you have it, friends. Thanks for watching.